Hey, welcome here to Mike Check with Micah. Thank you so much for being here with us. And this is streaming for free on KCEN 6 Plus, where I don't have to give you the time because you are watching on your time. The goals and objectives of Mike Check with Micah is to inform, entertain, as well as something else I forgot, but you know what? It's been a long day. However, this time we're going to focus on the informing aspect. So, I want to welcome in our guest. This is Kurt Glass, who is a lawyer. Tell us about what law you practice and your law firm.
Good morning. I'm a solo practitioner here in Bell County. I will travel some other counties as well, but primarily in Bell County. I've represented juveniles, been a lawyer for the past 15 years now. I'm retired Army, was not a lawyer in the military, but I've had just a great career here in Bell County. I love the county. I love the people. The folks that I practice law with are great individuals. And the citizens of Bell County too. And certainly in a situation like this, being as close to the community as I am, your heart just goes out to everyone involved. I had a case over at one of the other Killeen high schools several years ago, and it eats at your heart. These situations are difficult.
And then for some perspective and context, so today we're going to be talking about the unfortunate stabbing death of a Killeen ISD middle school student at Roy J. Smith Middle School. For those who don't know, as of March 13th, the information we know is that two 14-year-old girls got into an argument, and one of them was unfortunately stabbed to death. The girl who died's name is Serenity Baker. Again, both are 14. With this, Killeen ISD, they've held four news conferences as of March 13th. However, they haven't really given us much details or information. We know that Killeen Police, they are also investigating the homicide aspect of this. And we know that I believe Killeen is holding their own investigation. Dr. Fay said that the district is fully cooperating with law enforcement on this investigation. The first thing I'm going to touch on, because there's lots of questions that are unanswered, and we'll kind of give some legal, I guess, aspect and context to this. First and foremost, this is involving two 14-year-old girls. At the school district, not a lot of people want answers right then and now. Kind of tell us why they're not able to answer some questions that we as media, the public, and just generally concerned people here in Central Texas have questions about. If you can give insight on that.
Well, there's really, excuse me, there's really two layers to this. The first layer is in any criminal investigation, the police and the authorities are going to kind of lock down the evidence. They don't want the evidence to change. They want to get witness statements. They want to get videos, things like that. So they're going to be very tightly controlling the information because they don't want the information to change or to affect the way that the witnesses would make statements. The other layer to this, though, is because it does involve juveniles. Legally, no one can release. There's several reasons: protection of the juvenile, protection of the juvenile's family, and protection of other people who are involved in this. There may be other children involved. There may be other, I guess you could say, threats, other violent activities going on. The extent of that's not known. And so it's a two-tiered system. One, protect the evidence. Two, with juveniles, the law requires that we protect everyone involved. So we're not going to talk about identities. We're not going to talk about people involved. We know where it happened. We know when it happened. We know who it happened and who's involved, but the authorities and the legal professionals are not going to talk about who the children are.
And something that I want to ask, I watched the news conference live that Killeen ISD gave. I'm trying to think of the date. I think it was on the 11th. But there was a question asked if bullying was involved. We see a lot of people going online saying that bullying was involved. We, as a news organization, have not reported that because we're waiting on information from the district and their investigation. But the police chief of Killeen ISD said he could not answer that. Is that because of the minors, or is that because of the investigation still going on? why was it that something that maybe the district could not answer?
Well, there I'm gonna change my earlier statements a little bit. Um, Bullying takes on a separate crime. It introduces other elements into the situation. Excuse me. Just like if we said this was a self-defense case, that would enter in different elements that we as legal professionals have to be attentive to. I, but to say that bullying was involved or not involved, um, I think at that point that is just we don't want to talk about it, and we aren't going to say anything until we meet with our lawyers and we get a grip on what liability, if any, the school district may have. I don't think it matters whether bullying, I don't think that there's anything positive or negative, uh, any reason to say bullying was involved or not involved.
And something that I want to ask, real quick is, I mean, as a lawyer, we know that the district said that, I think before they gave that news conference, hours before, they had an executive session, well, an emergency
Mhm.
school board meeting. And with that, they allowed for parent comment. Only 7 parents signed up to speak, and
Kids
two of them,
are
I believe, were
hurting.
parents of Smith Middle School.
Really
And then they
difficult
spent
conversation with her.
an hour and 5 minutes in executive session. They said they were speaking with the school's lawyer. What type of legal advice do you believe would be given in situations like this? Because I mean, after that executive session, they're like, "Hey, the meeting's over, no action taken," and you get that news conference where questions weren't answered.
You know, Micah, that's a great question. Obviously, you're making me kind of chuckle about it because what's going through my head right now is all of these uh, YouTube advertisements from criminal law attorneys that basically get out and say, don't talk to the police, don't say anything. And that's what's going on. That's what KISD's lawyer is telling them. He's telling them, do not confirm that a knife was used. And oh, dear God, do not confirm that the metal detector was on but not being used. And so those two things are going to take a lot of time to get everybody on the same sheet of music.
And just for context for everyone, the district and police, we've been asking questions. However, they haven't really answered them for us. And something that we haven't been able to tell you all as viewers is what was used to do the stabbing. I've seen comments over pencil, pen, knife. However, we have not reported anything because we don't have that information confirmed. I know a lot of people on the line are upset at us, but our job is to get it right because we could get sued if we say something incorrect, and we don't
Right.
want to say that the wrong thing to misinform you all. Something I thought was really interesting during the news conference was um Killeen ISD's police chief, Eric Hydorn. He was asked directly, kind of multiple times, were the metal detectors used? Did school have metal detectors, and were they used? He said high schools and middle schools do have metal detectors, but he said he was not going to comment, would not answer if it was used. If it turns out that they were not used, what are some of the legal repercussions the district could face if that's the case?
So you have if you look up, I believe it's chapter 22 of the Juvenile Code, the school district has responsibilities to take care of your children. You know, you put them on the bus in the morning, you drop them off, you expect to get them home in the same condition you dropped them off in. And when that doesn't happen, you have to ask that question, well, what went wrong? We do it with school bus accidents. We do it with violence at school. Heck, we do it with children who aren't performing uh, as well as we want them to. We have all these different programs. But the reason people clam up in cases like this is because if they are what we call grossly negligent, same thing, if the bus driver was drinking, nobody's going to come out and go, yeah, I smelled him I smelled him and he was drunk 3 days ago. They're not going to say those things. They're not going to make admissions that are going to prejudice the case against them. That's what their lawyers say. YouTube lawyers all the time get on and give people advice. Do not say anything. And so the reason that they're not wanting to talk about how these metal detectors, if they were in place or not, is because it could expose the district. The answer to your question, it could expose the district to a claim of gross negligence, and that opens them up to financial exposure, being sued for a monetary.
And who would be able to do that? So would it be parents? Would it be the state? Would it be the Department of Education? Who would how would that suing come about? Would it be anyone who would be able to, any parents of the school district or any of that specific school?
So there's a number of people there as we kind of game this out, and it's interesting. Your question's very similar to what we get on the bar exam. You get a set of facts, and then you go, okay, list out all the possible issues here. The first and easiest issue to look at is the deceased child. What does her family, can they sue people? Yes, absolutely. But you have to ask the question, again, Chapter 22 looks at the responsibility of the school district to your children. And so unless they are grossly negligent, which means they knew the risk and they didn't do anything, they can't be held responsible. Your child goes to school, the school district's done what they're supposed to do, and your child is killed or dies, there's not going to be any financial recovery there because the school district is going to say we're protected, unless they did something grossly negligent, which in non-lawyer speak just means really stupid. If they did that, then the corrective measure, because you can't punish the school district. The only way you can make them change their behavior is financially. So group one that could sue for money would be the parents. Group two that could sue, and this is something that I think in the current news cycle is applicable. Group two that could sue, the county could sue Killeen School District. The reason for that is that to get an attorney, they're going to have to pay for an attorney to represent we'll call it the defendant. They're going to have to pay for an attorney to represent the defendant. To find a juvenile qualified court-appointed lawyer who can also handle a murder case is going to run the county probably in excess of $100,000 for that attorney, just for that attorney's fees. So there's $100,000. Then you're going to have to pay for court time. You're going to have to pay for transportation. You're going to have to pay for housing the juvenile. You're looking at an easy $200,000 to $300,000, perhaps more. And I've never understood why our county attorney won't go to these school districts and say, okay, you need to correct your behavior and you need to quit taking money out of the pockets of Bell County taxpayers.
Something else I want to ask is that with this, again, we have not reported. We've seen things online about possible bullying. We cannot confirm, so we have not reported. However, can the school district face any legal repercussions if possible bullying, repetitive bullying happened and it ended with a death?
If I was a parent and my child was going to that middle school or to really anywhere in KISD, I would be so enraged right now because this isn't the only incident of this. I think I mentioned earlier when you asked me a little bit about myself. Uh, I represented a young man who was charged with aggravated assault with a knife, over at Shoemaker several years ago. This is not uncommon behavior for Killeen. And the school district really needs to take a hard look at how they're handling these issues because children continue to get injured.
And I mean, with this, we've seen Dr. Joanne Fay. She did outline in the news conference some stricter the punishments, which include going to alternative school, possibly up to an entire school year with this. So those are some things that she listed. Do you think it will help any that she did it after that she listed this stuff after?
Um, I, I don't think the people that get involved in these type of situations necessarily hang on every last word of the superintendent. I don't think they listen or pay attention to them. I think they pay attention to things that are, right here, getting to work, getting the kids dressed, picking the kids up. Those are the things they pay attention to. Do you mind if I ask you a question?
Sure.
You don't have to answer this, but I'm curious. I'm a lawyer, so I like to ask questions. If you decided to take your children uh, to a over here in Belton, we have Summer Fun, the water park. You take them to a water park, and you know that every summer, at least one of them is going to get stabbed. Would you allow your children to go to that park anymore?
I won't answer, but I'll allow the people watching to
Okay.
answer in their head or whatever.
And realize thousands, tens of thousands of people go to that facility every year and nobody gets injured. Nobody gets stabbed to death. So if you've got a place like that and you're okay sending your kids there, you should be okay sending them to school.
And next question I want to ask is kind of now on the parents' end. The parents of the 14-year-old girl who stabbed the other one, are there legal repercussions that they could face, as well as are there any legal repercussions that the 14-year-old can face, considering that she's not an adult?
So under the juvenile code, and these are the books that we as lawyers follow. So when we have a question about something, you pop open the law book, you look at it, you see what it says. The 14-year-old juvenile, she will likely be tried as a juvenile, but which means that she could be held up until I believe it's her 19th birthday, and if convicted, uh, in the Texas Department of Juvenile Corrections. But I think if I understand your question, you're asking what else could happen. So the range is really all the way from probation, which I don't think is going to be on the table here, to regular juvenile type sentence, which would take her up until she's no longer a juvenile. But Texas law provides for something else, and I've seen this, and I've seen the judge that will be handling use this in serious crimes. We refer to it as a DS. It's short for a determinative sentence. It comes in 10, 20, 30, and 40-year flavors. So if you get a DS 40, that means that you are subject to spend, even after you age out of juvenile prison, you're subject to spend 40 years as an adult in the Texas Department of Corrections. So it's very, very serious. It's not a good thing.
And then could the parents be faced with any charges for their student? I mean, a lot of people online saying, it starts at home. Some people are saying it's the district. I know there's a blame game, but want to get into legalities. Could the parents also face something with this situation? Could they face any time, any fines, or what?
The as far as any prison time, no. They're only juvenile law is kind of a quasi civil and criminal law. There's a lot of civil law that bleeds over into juvenile criminal proceedings. So most likely, what the parents would face would be some sort of civil lawsuit. However, I don't know. We use the term judgment proof. I don't know that the parents in this case have anything that most people are what we call judgment proof. You own your home, can't lose that because it's homesteaded. And other than that, you got a car, you got some furniture. What is there really that you possess? That is of value. So I doubt the parents really have much. I think they're probably judgment proof. Most of us are. There's really nothing criminally that they could be held liable for. They could. You are responsible as a parent for having to pay off the court fines and court costs. But in a case that's going to run $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 to the taxpayers, nobody has that kind of money realistically. Does that answer the question, or is there a little bit more there
Oh
that
no,
you're for?
no. I think that's good. It's just saying like what could happen, the legal things they could face. I want to ask because I know actually coming up as of now, the case in Allen trial is coming up with the student at Belton High School. That's taken years. It happened in 2022 before I even moved here to Central Texas. And the trial's been delayed over again. For children, like, are they housed in juvenile detention center though those years? Like, as this specific case that we're talking about, as that continues to develop, what happens to that 14-year-old girl? Will she be in juvenile detention center? Will she be at home? Will she be in alternative learning? Like, what's kind of happened to her? And while we're waiting on it to play out in court as well as the investigation.
The more serious the case, the longer it takes. Um, if if it's a drunk driving case is going to take 8, 9 months, maybe something like this is going to drag on for years. And well, I know you came from Arkansas. Uh, your viewers here are going to be very familiar with how slow the Bell County justice system works. Uh, there's a number of reasons for that, but justice takes time. And the more serious the case is, the longer it takes. Now, to answer your question of where will this child be during this time, uh, likely in juvenile detention. And we have a facility here in Bell County that those of us who practice juvenile law are very, very well acquainted with. I don't know. The judge could put her on some sort of ankle monitor or release, but there's going to be gates that this judge is going to require be passed before the child will be released back into society. And those are going to take a long time. And even then, I don't see it on a case this serious. I think she's going to be in the juvenile detention center for quite a while.
All right. Is there anything else you would like to say about this case that you think just our audience should know about why the investigation is moving slow, about any legal repercussions, just about what actually could this possibly, I guess, force the district to create even more structural changes and policy changes this issue? I mean, it kind of seems like it already
It,
did.
it needs to. Exactly. It needs to. There's a couple of things. And I appreciate the format that you got here. Very, very often in this type of interview, it's real brief. It's just quick, and you just don't get the time to really tell people the full story, and so they get a very narrow look at it. So why aren't things done differently? The thing that I don't understand in situations like this, excuse me, we have our county attorney's office has 3 lawyers and their associated staff who do nothing but juvenile prosecutions. The rest of the lawyers in the county attorney's office handle the other misdemeanors, adult misdemeanors. But this is such a huge financial drain. And when you have another organization on the county, when you have another organization that should be responsible, not only for the children, but also for the money that gets spent on this. What really is going to happen is, and this is why the lawyers for the school district are saying, don't talk to anybody, is that Killeen, I think you just alluded to it a bit in your question, Killeen School District needs to fix its behavior. How do we do that? I mean, they've had stabbings. I represented a child over there, as I said. Nothing has changed. How do you get an entity to change its behavior? Happens, we're watching it in the news right now. You hit them with money. Killeen needs to reimburse the county for the court-appointed attorney who's going to charge over $100,000 for all the costs, everything associated with this. This is not the county's fault. This is the school district's fault.
And real quick, can there be any individual lawsuits as far as the superintendent or maybe school board members who could face lawsuits or anything like that?
Again, that is really good question. Again, that's really covered by this section of the law that spells out legally what your exposure is, being a member of a school district. And you would have to show that superintendent or that person said, turn off the metal detector or don't man the metal detector or something to that effect to show that they were grossly negligent. But that's why we have organizations like the school district. It's its own entity. And so we can hold the school district responsible, take money out of the school district's pocket, send it over to the county attorney for having to prosecute this case. And in that way, the superintendent, the school board, the people who should have been paying attention to this go, hey, we don't want to continue to lose more of our budget. We are obviously going to have to change the way we do things.
Hey, real quick, I know I am running out of time, but I wanted to ask, oh goodness, I forgot it.
It's okay. I'll talk forever.
Hey,
In fact, after you hang up, I'll probably still be sitting here talking.
dang, it was a good question too, but while I try to think of it, I do want to thank you so much for sitting down to talk with me and our audience to give just some perspective on this because I mean a lot of people have things to say, but I think it's important to get the
Yeah.
legal aspect of it.
You've asked about bullying several times, and I don't think I ever really fully answered that. It could open the school district up to a little more exposure from other parents whose children have been injured that we don't see in the news because they're not as major of an event as this is. But I don't know that the bullying really, I mean, in Texas, you're allowed to meet force with reasonable force that it takes to stop the aggression. Self-defense, basically. I don't know that this is going to be a self-defense case. I think this is going to be even if bullying was involved, that does not rise to the level of I get to kill people who are bullying me. I think that's probably the best and most horrific answer I can give you.
And then real quick, we probably have like 2 minutes left, but I want to think of like I guess kind of collateral damage. We know that the school district did this school year was I think the first in our area to implement the cell phone things. I know a lot of parents were frustrated about the communication and their kids. Do you think this could have an impact on this, or could be impacted where they look at even that policy as well of students having their cell phones?
Oh my God, absolutely. That cell phone is uh, it's a great tool when stuff's going really bad, but it's not so great a tool when you're trying to say something isn't your fault.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much, Mr. Kurt Glass, for speaking with us today. It gave me insight. I tell people I do not practice law. Obviously, I'm a journalist and I ask questions, but you gave lots of insight that hopefully will it help me understand some things and hopefully will help our audience. So we appreciate you. Before we go on this mic check, I want to let everyone listen to something that my co-anchor had to say on this situation. But for now, have a good day.
Well, hey there, Central Texas. I'm KCEN anchor Jasmine Caldwell. Well, this week there has been a lot of heavy hearts in our community following the tragic loss of 14-year-old Serenity Baker, a student at Roy J. Smith Middle School in Killeen. In moments like these, words often feel inadequate, yet it is important that we come together as a community to acknowledge the pain, confusion, and anger that many of you are feeling right now. This senseless act of violence has shattered the innocence of our children and left families grappling with an unimaginable loss. As we process this tragedy, I want to remind you that it is okay to feel a whirlwind of emotions, grief, fear, and even frustration. You are not alone in this. We are all in this together. Well, many of you are searching for answers, wondering how something so horrific could happen in a place that should be safe for our children to learn and grow. It is natural to seek clarity and understanding in the wake of such chaos. As a community, we must come together to honor the life of the young student we lost. Let us remember the laughter, the dreams, and the potential that was so tragically cut short. We owe it to them to ensure that their legacy lives on in our hearts and actions. Together we can advocate for change, pushing for safer environments in our schools and more robust mental health resources for our children. It's time for us to have open conversations about bullying, mental health, and the access to resources kids need to thrive. Let us also remember the importance of compassion and understanding. It is easy to become consumed by anger and blame, but let's channel those feelings into positive action. I encourage each of you to participate in community discussions, voice your concerns, and seek solutions. Now, we are a resilient community, and while we may be hurting, we have the power to heal, to ensure that such a tragedy never happens again.